The lights in the studio were blinding. Cameras moved in slow, silent motion. The air was heavy, thick with silence. This wasn't just another debate show. Everyone could feel it. Something was about to break. The stage was set for a major political discussion, and millions were watching live. The topic was criminal justice reform. Two women sat across from each other under the bright lights: Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and political commentator Candace Owens, both known for their fire, both respected, both dangerous when pushed. At first, everything seemed routine. The host welcomed them, smiled, and began with soft questions. Jasmine spoke confidently, drawing applause as she criticized the corporate prison system and called for major reform. Candace waited, watching closely, letting Jasmine speak. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. Then, without warning, Candace leaned forward. The host was still mid-question, but Candace cut in softly but clearly. "Congresswoman Crockett," she said, "you say you represent the truth. Then why are you hiding this from the people you claim to fight for?" The room froze. Even the cameramen seemed to stop moving. The host turned, startled. Jasmine blinked once, her smile vanishing. "Excuse me?" she said slowly. Her tone was careful, but something in her eyes had changed. She wasn't confused, she was alarmed. Candace reached into the folder in front of her and pulled out a document, glossy, sharp, and real. She held it up so the cameras could see. "This," she said, "is your financial disclosure from last April, the public version. But there's something missing." She pulled another paper from the stack. This one looked different. Internal, confidential. "This version," Candace said, "comes from a closed-door ethics subcommittee. And it includes a payment, $75,000, a speaking fee, from a lobbying firm directly tied to corporate prison contracts." The audience made a low, sharp noise, a gasp. Journalists in the front row leaned forward. Candace continued, "This is the same firm your office has publicly condemned. And yet, somehow, you accepted their money." Jasmine's face tightened. She didn't blink. Her hand twitched slightly, fingers tapping the desk. "That is a lie," she said sharply. "That document was reviewed. It was cleared. You're twisting facts, Candace, like you always do." Candace didn't move. Her tone stayed calm. "Have the receipt," she said, "their 1099 form, and an email confirming the payment." She raised her phone. "Want me to read it?" Silence. Jasmine stood. "You're not going to sit here and assassinate my character with half-truths and fake outrage," she said, her voice rising. "You don't care about justice. You care about clicks." The room was electric. Viewers across the country were frozen, phones in hand, screens recording. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was war. Jasmine was breathing heavily. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear, from fury. It looked like she might walk out. But she didn't. Instead, she took a deep breath, slowly sat back down. Her voice, when it returned, was quieter, but deeper. "Yes," she said. "I accepted that speaking fee, but not for what you think." Candace raised an eyebrow. The audience leaned in. "I was invited to speak at that firm's event," Jasmine continued. "Not to support them, but to speak against them. To talk about how corporate incarceration is destroying Black families and communities of color." She looked directly into the camera now. Her voice steady, but her eyes wet. "And that money," she said, "went straight into a legal defense fund for families affected by wrongful imprisonment." "But no one asked me that." Candace sat still. Her expression didn't change, but she didn't interrupt. Jasmine kept going. "You think exposing this makes me a hypocrite?" Her voice cracked slightly. "Then expose me. I'm not afraid of truth. What I am afraid of is how people like you twist reality into entertainment." The audience was silent now, completely silent. Even online, the chat feeds had slowed. People were watching something real, something raw. Candace spoke again. Do you have any proof the money was donated? I do, Jasmine said. And I'll release it. But I wonder, will that part go viral too? The host tried to regain control. We're going to take a quick break. No, Jasmine interrupted. Let it roll. There was no break, no commercials, no scripts. What started as a political ambush had become something else entirely. A live confrontation between two women with different ideologies, both trying to prove they stood for justice, both unwilling to back down. The show neared its end. The mood in the studio had shifted. No cheers, no applause. Just quiet. Jasmine stared at Candace. You want the truth? She said. Then come with me. See the neighborhoods I fight for? Talk to the mothers. Read the cases. Till then, you're just another camera with a script. Candace looked back, eyes narrowed. And you're just another politician who knows how to spin. The host closed the show with a nervous smile. Thank you both for your honesty. The screen faded to black, but the fire had just begun. Within minutes, the clip was trending. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Crockett clapback and hashtag Owens exposes. News outlets replayed the moment. Analysts took sides. And somewhere in a quiet control room, a producer whispered, we just changed the election. Because in that studio, something had shifted. Not just the conversation, the entire game. The next morning, Washington was on fire, not from smoke or sirens, but from headlines. Hashtags and headlines screaming across every screen. Candace Owens exposes Jasmine Crockett live ethics scandal. Hero or hypocrite? Crockett faces tough questions after explosive showdown. Hashtag Crockett clapback. Trends. As supporters rally online, cable news played the clip on repeat. Analysts debated her every word. Some called Candace brave, others called her reckless. Jasmine, meanwhile, stayed silent. Not a single tweet, not a press conference. Her office released a one-line statement. Representative Crockett will address this when it's responsible to do so, not before. But silence didn't stop the storm. In a quiet Georgetown townhouse, Jasmine sat with her senior aide, Malik. The door was locked. Phones off, Malik was pacing. You have to say something today, he said. The media is already spinning this like you're guilty. Jasmine didn't look up. She was reading a document. Not the ones Candace showed, something older. Something she hadn't looked at in years. Wasn't just a speech, Jasmine said finally. That event, it was a setup. I knew it when I walked in. Malik stopped. You think they recorded it? Jasmine nodded. They knew I was going to criticize them, but they paid me anyway. Now they've waited until election season to leak just enough to make it look dirty. Outside, protesters were gathering. Some held signs supporting Jasmine. Others demanded she resign. The line between fact and fiction was blurring fast. Meanwhile, across the city, Candace Owens was preparing for her next appearance, a Fox News primetime special. Her producer handed her a tablet. You'll love this, he said. Someone just leaked the full speaking contract. Our team didn't ask for it, but it's real. Candace scrolled through the PDF. A strange look crossed her face. Doesn't match the email I got, she said slowly. This contract shows the money going to a nonprofit fund, not her account. The producer shrugged. Still smells funny. Might be fake. Candace stared at the screen. The doubt crept. Had she just aired a half-truth? But she shook it off. If it's fake, let her prove it. What Candace didn't know was that the email she'd read live on air had come from a source outside the U.S., an encrypted address, registered through a proxy service in Belgium. Later that afternoon, an independent journalist named Marisol Vega published a small but explosive blog post. Source of Crockett document tied to European intelligence network foreign. Influence possible. It didn't go viral at first, but in Capitol Hill hallways, senators began whispering. Was this just a political scandal or a cyber operation? Back in Jasmine's office, Malik's phone buzzed. He turned pale. "What?" Jasmine asked. "The journalist, Vega. She says the document Candace used. It came through a European shell company with links to an old Russian disinfo unit." Jasmine's eyes narrowed. "They're trying to burn me, but not just for politics." She stood. "Call Marisol. Tell her I'll talk but off the record tonight." Hours later, in a dark corner of a DC cafe, Jasmine sat across from Marisol. No cameras. Just 2 cups of coffee and a USB drive. "This," Jasmine said, handing her the drive, "is the full video of my speech. It's unedited, everything I said, and where the money went." Marisol stared at her. "Why now?" "Because the lie is winning," Jasmine said. "And because if this is bigger than me, if someone's using Candace to push disinformation, I need the public to know before it destroys more than just my name." At that same moment, Candace was in makeup, getting ready to go live again. Her earpiece buzzed. Her assistant whispered, "Something's up." "Crockett's talking to a reporter. Could be damage control." Candace nodded slowly, but deep inside, something was off. For the first time, she wasn't sure if she was holding the truth or if she'd been handed a weapon meant for someone else to pull the trigger. The segment started. Cameras rolled. But as Candace smiled for the screen, far away in an underground server farm, a hacker clicked upload, and the full uncut video of Jasmine's speech, where she called out the very firm that paid her and announced the legal fund on camera, hit the internet. Within minutes, #Jasmine was right started trending. And the question across every network changed. Was Jasmine set up? What began as a fiery TV clash had just become something far more dangerous. Not a scandal, not a smear. A political ambush with international fingerprints. And no one knew where it would lead next. Washington, D.C., 36 hours later, the story had flipped. What started as a televised ethics attack had turned into something darker, deeper. And Jasmine Crockett was no longer the hunted. She was now the center of a growing mystery with global echoes. Cable news anchors leaned forward in their chairs as they spoke with urgency. Who leaked the forged email to Candace Owens? Was this foreign interference? And why Target? Congresswoman Crockett now. Across the country, people were glued to their screens. But behind the scenes, Jasmine was doing something unexpected. Looking backward, she sat in her office with a single yellow folder on her lap. On the cover, Project Horizon, Confidential Briefing 2019. "Do you remember this?" she asked quietly, sliding it across her desk to Malik. He stared at it. His face went still. "I thought this was buried." "Not buried," Jasmine said. "Just forgotten. Until now." Flashback. 4 years earlier, before she was in Congress, Jasmine Crockett was a civil rights attorney. The kind that showed up when no one else would. She worked a case against a Texas-based private prison operator. It's the same one tied to the lobbying firm in the current scandal. Back then, the firm had launched a program called Project Horizon. On the surface, it was supposed to be an education and reentry initiative for incarcerated youth. But Jasmine got a tip. Inside that program, young inmates were being used for unpaid labor, sometimes for private tech companies. She investigated quietly, off the record, spoke to families, collected statements, even went undercover to attend one of their closed conferences. It was dangerous. And what she found terrified her. But the deeper she got, the more the doors began closing. Judges started delaying subpoenas. Witnesses got quiet. And then a federal agency told her off the record to back off. They said it was part of a national intelligence contract. Jasmine told Malik now. They claimed it was protected. "So you stopped?" Malik asked. "No," she said. "I leaked the files." To a journalist in Belgium, Malik's eyes widened. "Wait, Belgium? That's where the forged Candace email came from." Jasmine nodded. "That's the connection no one's made yet. Whatever this is, it's not just about me. It's retaliation." That evening, across town, Candace Owens sat in a sleek black SUV outside a private dinner event. She wasn't smiling. Her phone buzzed. Her assistant had just sent her a link, the full video of Jasmine's 2019 speech, and a map showing where the lobbying firm had donated money across dozens of districts, including both Democratic and Republican campaigns. Candace stared at it for a long moment, then she picked up her phone and called her source, the one who gave her the original document. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. The number was disconnected. Something was wrong. Meanwhile, Jasmine met quietly with a cybersecurity expert from the intelligence community, a woman named Eliza Quinn. "We've traced the metadata from the leaked document to a ghost server in Zurich," Eliza said. "But that's not the real problem." She pulled up a screen. "There's a larger network, 5 fake accounts, all with ties to media influencers, all feeding preloaded narratives about prison reform activists being corrupt." Jasmine leaned in. "So it's coordinated?" Eliza nodded. "And someone went to great lengths to make you the test case." "Why me?" Jasmine asked. "Because you're loud, you're visible, you're young. And because you're black, that makes you a perfect target for a disinformation campaign meant to split the public, not just politically, but racially." Jasmine felt her throat tighten. "They're not just trying to silence me. They're trying to use me to divide the country." Eliza didn't blink. Exactly. That night, a major leak hit the press. The New York Times published a story confirming that the email Candace read Anne had been altered digitally 3 days before the show. Worse, the IP address used was traced to a digital forensics firm under investigation in the Netherlands for election manipulation. Suddenly, Candace wasn't just a firebrand commentator. She was a potential link in a disinformation chain that stretched across borders. In the early hours of the morning, Jasmine posted a simple video on her social media. No lights, no makeup, just her sitting in a hoodie on her back porch. "I've spent the last few days being called a liar, a fraud, a sellout," she said softly, "and I haven't answered. Not because I was hiding, but because I knew the truth was louder than noise." She looked straight into the lens. "Tonight, you're going to see something bigger than me, bigger than Candace. You're going to see how power moves, how it manipulates facts, truth, even people." Behind her, the sun was rising. "We're not just fighting bad policies anymore," Jasmine said. "We're fighting the people who profit from lies." The video ended by sunrise. It had 14 million views, and somewhere in Brussels, someone opened a laptop, saw the headlines, and made a call. The voice on the other end answered in Russian. "She remembers. What do we do now? Discredit her completely." The game had just gone international, and Jasmine Crockett was now at the center of it all. The private jet hummed above the clouds, cutting through silence and altitude. Inside, Candace Owens sat across from 2 men in tailored suits. One was her legal advisor. The other, a former NSA intelligence contractor turned political fixer. Neither smiled. They were headed to Dallas for a high-profile conference on media freedom. Ironic, given the scandal now circling her like vultures. But this meeting wasn't about a speech. It was about survival. "We traced the source of the email," the advisor said quietly. "You were fed a doctored document." Candace crossed her arms. "That doesn't mean the core of it wasn't." "True. No," the fixer said, leaning forward. "It means someone used your voice to detonate a bomb. And now you look like you lit the fuse." She said nothing. "You've been played," he continued. "And by someone offshore. Someone smart. They needed a high-profile American voice to start a fire, one that divides the political stage and discredits criminal justice reform in a very specific way." Candace stared out the window. "You're saying I was used as a weapon?" "Yes," the fixer said. "And now you have 2 options. Deny everything or pivot hard and uncover who set you up." Back in Washington, Jasmine Crockett was in a secure room deep under the Capitol, being briefed by 2 cyber intelligence officers and an ethics committee representative. They showed her screenshots of internal forums on the dark web. Thread titles read, Operation Doublespeak. Target 7 Crockett Reverse Ethics Playbook in motion, she read in silence, her eyes sharp. The officer spoke. These are forums run by a cyber group known as SVR Vector, an offshoot of Russian military intelligence. Their new method isn't hacking elections, it's hacking reputations. Jasmine leaned back, her expression unreadable. They inject just enough truth to make a lie believable, the second officer added. Then they weaponize the media. The ethics committee representative cleared her throat. Congresswoman Crockett. We believe this may be the first confirmed instance of a U.S. representative being targeted with a fabricated ethics narrative from a foreign power. Jasmine exhaled slowly. So what happens now? The officer's response was cold. We inform the speaker. We investigate further. And if this is confirmed, the next public hearing won't just be about your ethics. It'll be about national security. Meanwhile, Candace's phone buzzed. It was a blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. Voice on the other end said, You need to speak to a man named Victor. He used to work at ICE. Now he freelances in disinformation engineering. He was paid to connect you with the Crockett document. The line went dead. Candace's eyes narrowed. She typed the name into an encrypted search database. Within seconds, a file popped up. Viktor Kirsanov, former DHS contractor. Deported in 2022 for falsifying asylum records. Resurfaced in The Hague last fall under a fake identity. She leaned back in her seat, suddenly cold. What she had thought was a political win might now be a federal crime. The media, meanwhile, was in full chaos mode. CNN released a breaking story titled, Candace Owens may have spread foreign forged document. DOJ begins quiet inquiry. The Guardian ran a global angle. Russian misinformation targets Black U.S. leaders to sow division. But it was Al Jazeera that dropped the bombshell. A leaked video from a private surveillance feed showed Victor meeting with a woman wearing an RNC staff badge just 2 weeks before the televised debate between Candace and Jasmine. The implications were explosive. That night, Jasmine received a burner phone. No number, just a video file. She played it. Showed her 4 years ago at the private prison conference where she had given the controversial speech. Video was clear, real, and it showed her publicly calling out the firm, rejecting their lobbying check, and announcing the creation of the Community Legal Defense Fund. It was the full truth, but someone had been sitting on this video for years. Beneath it was a text message. Release this and you're not just clearing your name. You're taking down a system. Jasmine stared at the screen. She was tired, not just physically, but politically. She had been fighting a machine her entire career. But now the machine had made a mistake. It had tried to bury her under a lie. And she had the shovel. The next morning, Jasmine released the full video with one line, Let the public see what was edited out. It went viral in hours. The backlash against the firm began immediately. Their stock dropped 23%. Congress called an emergency hearing. But something else happened too. Candace Owens, live on Fox, made an unexpected statement. I now believe I was handed a manipulated document, she said. And while my intentions were honest, the source was not. I intend to find out who's behind it. The internet froze. Jasmine watched from her office, stunned. For the first time, Candace wasn't attacking her. She was joining her. The enemy had overplayed their hand, and now the two most unexpected women in American politics were staring down the same target. But in the shadows, the real players were moving too. In a secure room overseas, Viktor Kirsanov burned his phones and packed a bag. On the table, a news ticker played Jasmine's clip on mute. He smiled. This game is far from over. Brussels, Belgium, 2:17 a.m. Rain tapped the rooftop of a nondescript safe house. Inside, the glow of 6 monitors lit up a dark room. On one of the screens, Jasmine Crockett's full speech played on loop. On another, Candace Owens, her live apology broadcast frozen mid-sentence. Viktor Kirsanov watched silently. He was older than he looked, sharp eyes, hollow cheeks, and the calm of someone who had seen regimes fall. He muttered in Russian, "They weren't supposed to unite." Behind him, a younger operative entered. "Sir Crockett's video has reached 58 million views. Owens is walking back everything. American media's shifting." Viktor didn't look away. "Shift it back." Washington, D.C., U.S. State Department Crisis Monitoring Center. The overnight alert came just before sunrise. Intelligence. Alert. Possible foreign interference linked to domestic political infighting. Officials gathered quickly. Not just intelligence analysts, but diplomats, cybersecurity experts, and a United Nations liaison who had flown in under heavy security. The concern wasn't just Jasmine or Candace anymore. 'Twas global. A classified memo revealed that similar smear tactics were being used in Canada, Germany, and Kenya, targeting progressive voices of color in elections where prison reform was a national issue. The fingerprints matched. Someone, somewhere, wanted to stop criminal justice reform, and they were using propaganda, forged documents, and polarizing media to do it. United Nations Headquarters Emergency Press Briefing, A rare joint statement was issued by 3 countries, the United States, the Netherlands, and the UK, warning of coordinated international disinformation efforts targeting vulnerable democratic systems. Reporters pushed for specifics. "You talking about Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's case?" The U.S. ambassador took a breath. "Her case appears to be a pilot operation. 'Tis now a matter of national concern." Inside Jasmine Crockett's office, Jasmine stood at the window, phone in hand, watching the sunrise burn over the Capitol dome. Her staff was silent. Malik finally spoke. "Your poll numbers are rising. You went from being accused to being..." The story, she didn't smile. "They're not just after me," she said. "They're testing how easily the public can be turned against anyone who dares speak up." Malik nodded. "So what do we do now?" "We go to the heart of it." That night, a global forum, Justice for the Future, live broadcast and emergency summit had been thrown together in less than 24 hours. Activists, legal scholars, and politicians gathered in New York City. The room was packed, but the world was watching through live streams translated into 9 languages. Jasmine and Candace sat on opposite sides of the stage. A tension still hung between them, but it wasn't personal anymore. It was strategic. The moderator began nervously. "Tonight we confront not just policies, but the weaponization of media. Ms. Owens, Congresswoman Crockett, are you ready?" Candace leaned forward first. "I was used," she said. "That's the truth. I didn't fact-check as deeply as I should have. I let my platform be hijacked, but I've seen the other side now, and it's more dangerous than either of us." Jasmine spoke next. "This wasn't just about me. It's about how the public is being conditioned to reject truth the second it gets complicated. They want us at war with each other because it keeps us too distracted to look up." Then came the surprise. Candace reached into her folder and held up a document. "This," she said, "is a transcript of a call I had with the person who gave me that forged email. I recorded it." "He admits he was paid." Gasps echoed in the room. Jasmine turned, stunned. Candace handed the transcript to the moderator. "I give it to the international press tonight." The moderator's hand shook slightly as she held it up. This may lead to criminal charges." Candace looked across the stage. "Don't care. I'd rather take the heat for being wrong than stay silent and be part of the machine." Jasmine nodded. "Then let's take it down together." But in Geneva, a closed-door intelligence briefing, a senior NATO cyber intelligence official clicked through slides. "This is a map of known SVR vector operations." The Jasmine Crockett-Candace Owens incident was just one. We believe these networks are preparing similar operations targeting upcoming elections in France and Brazil. Someone asked, how? Do we fight a war where the weapon is truth, bent just slightly? The official answered, we don't censor it, we expose it. And we protect people who dare to speak up. Later that night, Jasmine's hotel room, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find a small envelope on the floor. No sender. Inside, a USB drive. Malik plugged it into an air-gapped laptop. A single folder opened. Horizon, Bactional Deep. Archive. Inside, videos, emails, voice recordings, years of hidden communications between lobbying firms, political consultants, and foreign data operatives. It was the motherlode. Jasmine stared at the screen, her breath catching. This wasn't just about clearing her name. This was about exposing an international alliance designed to kill reform before it could take root. She looked at Malik. Get? The legal team. Call the networks. And send a copy to the Justice Department. He hesitated. You're sure? Us. Jasmine's voice was clear. We go public. All of it. 'Cause this time, the gasps wouldn't just come from an audience. Come from Congress, Wall Street, and governments around the world. And nothing would ever be the same again. PBS Frontline Studios, New York City. 7:58 p.m. The studio was dim, lights focused on a single leather chair. Cameras were live in 30 seconds. The producer whispered, keep it steady. No interruptions. Let her speak, Congresswoman. Jasmine Crockett sat alone under the lights. Her hands were folded. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held the weight of someone carrying a truth that had been denied oxygen for far too long. The host, seasoned journalist Eleanor Vega, took her seat opposite Jasmine. The countdown on the teleprompter read 3, 2, ... 1. Tonight, Eleanor began, we speak with the woman at the center of a global political storm. Ethics accusations. Forged documents. Foreign interference. A battle for truth in the age of disinformation. Congresswoman Crockett, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jasmine said softly. It's time. 10 minutes in, Eleanor leaned forward. You were accused of accepting $75,000 from a lobbying firm tied to private prisons, the same firm you've condemned. Candace Owens revealed a document suggesting misconduct. Was it true? Jasmine inhaled slowly. I took the speaking fee. That part is true. What's not true is what was left out. I didn't take money to promote them. I went there too. Challenge them. My full speech was never shown until I released the original footage. That money funded a legal defense fund for families harmed by the very system that firm profits from. Laner nodded. Why do you think that detail was? Hidden. Because it was never about ethics. It was about control. 20 minutes in on screen, a digital timeline appeared showing Jasmine's 2019 work uncovering the Project Horizon labor scandal, her rising influence, and a sudden increase in cybersmear attempts after she introduced a bill to restrict private prison contracts. Are you saying this was retaliation? Eleanor asked. I'm saying it was precision warfare, Jasmine replied. Someone out there has learned how to dress lies in half-truths and feed them to people we trust. People. Like Candace. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Okay. And yet, Candace Owens now says she believes you were targeted. Jasmine nodded. She was targeted too. She just didn't know it. They used her voice to hit me. And when the smoke cleared, we both saw who was really holding the match. 30 minutes in, the unexpected leak. Eleanor glanced at her tablet, then looked up. We've just received confirmation that the U.S. Department of Justice has opened a federal investigation into forged documents tied to a Belgian cybersecurity shell company. Your name is in the case file as the target. Jasmine exhaled. Good, she said, because what I'm about to show you is what they didn't want anyone to see. She reached into her bag and pulled out the USB drive she'd received the night before. The one labeled Horizon Bactional Deep Archive. Eleanor's eyes widened. Is that? Jasmine nodded. Evidence, emails, audio files, legal memos. Proof of coordination between lobbying firms, foreign disinformation actors, and political consultants across 3 continents have. You verified it. Yes, with cybersecurity experts, forensic analysts, and the Library of Congress. She plugged it into the studio's encrypted review system. The screen split. One side, a 2020 Zoom call between executives at a lobbying firm discussing how to neutralize progressive disruptors like Crockett. The other side, a 2021 audio clip of a foreign operative discussing synthetic narratives designed to destroy public trust in reform-minded Black politicians. The studio went silent. Even the crew stopped breathing. 45 minutes in, raw truth. Eleanor looked shaken. Congresswoman, this could reshape how the public views everything from campaign finance to media accountability. Jasmine nodded. It's not just about me. It's about the system that turns people into targets the moment they challenge profit. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from weight. They wanted to destroy me, not just politically, but spiritually. They wanted to erase what I've fought for and make it look like I did it to myself. But here's the truth. I'm still here, and I'm not afraid. She paused, because the worst thing they ever did was assume I'd stay quiet. Final segment, reactions around the world as the interview ended. PBS's live feed. Switch to rolling global headlines. BBC, American Congresswoman drops evidence bombshell on live TV. Le Mans, France. Revelations of foreign manipulation in U.S. politics confirmed. Al Jazeera. Criminal justice reform advocate fights back with leaked intelligence. Twitter exploded with hashtags. Hashtag Jasmine Unfiltered, hashtag Owens and Crockett. Hashtag exposing the system donations poured into Crockett's legal defense fund. And surprisingly, even Candace Owens shared the interview, quote tweeting with, "Truth doesn't belong to one side. This moment belongs to all of us." Elsewhere, a cold reaction in a dark hallway in Geneva, Viktor Kirsanov watched a screen as Jasmine's interview replayed. A man beside him asked, "Do we escalate?" "No," Viktor said, lips tight. She opened the curtain, let them stare into the machine. Let them try to understand it. He turned and walked away, 'cause the damage was done. Jasmine had not just survived the scandal. She had detonated the truth in front of the world. And in doing so, she made one thing clear. This war wasn't over. But now, she was the one holding the microphone. Capitol Hill, 1 week later, the rotunda was packed. Not with tourists, but reporters, aides, lawmakers, and diplomats. Cameras lined the marble walls. Every major network was broadcasting live. This wasn't a hearing, it was a reckoning. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett stood before the Oversight and Cybersecurity Subcommittee, flanked by her legal counsel and the House Minority Whip. She wasn't testifying under investigation. She was testifying as a witness and a survivor of a targeted international disinformation campaign. Outside, protesters gathered with signs that read, "Truth isn't treason. Digital lies equals real damage, and we stand with." Candace and Jasmine, inside the atmosphere, was electric. The chairwoman adjusted her microphone. "Congresswoman Crockett, thank you for your cooperation. You have 15 minutes for your opening statement." Jasmine took a breath, steady and calm. "Thank you, Madam Chair. What happened to me wasn't just personal, it was political warfare by digital design. This wasn't about ethics. It was about silence, about power." She held up the same yellow folder from Part 3 Project Horizon, confidential briefing, and laid it flat. The document that was used to smear me came from an operation designed to influence public opinion using media figures as delivery tools and broken truths as ammunition. This folder isn't just evidence of my innocence, it's proof of intent, years of it. She paused, letting the silence breathe. "I am not here to clear my name. That's already happened. I am here to warn every person watching. If this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone who speaks out against the system." Gasps, whispers. The chairwoman leaned forward. "Congresswoman, Crockett, who do you believe coordinated this? Casement didn't hesitate. The evidence points to a network of lobbying firms, foreign contractors, and political operatives working together under the radar to kill momentum for criminal justice reform in the United States and abroad. She looked directly into the camera. Their message is clear. If you threaten profit, they will threaten you. Flash cut across town. Candace Owens sat in a CNN studio across D.C., watching the hearing unfold in real time. She'd declined to appear in person, fearing it would turn into a circus. Instead, she'd chosen to speak next solo. The anchor turned to her. Do you now fully believe you were part of a coordinated attack? Candace's response was quiet. I don't believe. I know and I regret it. She held up a new document, the signed deposition of Viktor Kirsanov, obtained through an international legal exchange. This man admitted to forging the email I read on air. He admitted to targeting Jasmine Crockett on orders from an offshore contractor with ties to both a private prison lobbying group and a European political data firm. The anchor asked the question everyone feared. Were U.S. officials involved? Candace paused. That's what we don't know yet. But we will. Later that night, a special counsel is appointed. Breaking news tickers lit up across screens. Justice Department appoints special prosecutor to investigate foreign influence in U.S. legislative disruption. House Ethics Committee launches parallel investigation into lobbying firm ties. First indictments possible within days. Back at Capitol Hill. The closing moment, the chairwoman turned to Jasmine. Congresswoman Crockett, do you feel safe? The question hung in the air. Jasmine looked across the chamber. Her voice dropped to a whisper, the kind of whisper that carried farther than a shout. Safe? No. But truth was never meant to be safe. It's meant to be seen. She stood. Applause erupted from both sides of the aisle. 48 hours later, international fallout. France suspends a data-sharing contract with the lobbying firm named in Jasmine's folder. Brazil opens an inquiry into election data tampering connected to the same network. Interpol issues a red notice for Viktor Kirsanov. And for the first time in history, the United Nations announces a global framework for digital political transparency. Co-authored by the U.S., Kenya, and Germany, with Jasmine Crockett invited to speak at the signing. Final scene, Jasmine's return home, Dallas, Texas, back in her district. Jasmine stood before a packed auditorium of students, activists, and families she'd helped through her legal defense fund. I was almost erased, she said. By bullets or courts, but by lies dressed in truth. She smiled now, softer. They tried to write my ending, but I took the pen back. From the back row, a young girl raised her hand. Are you going to run for president? Laughter, applause. Jasmine chuckled. Let me survive Congress first. As she stepped off stage, her phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. This was just the test. Next time we bring it Globo. She stared at it, then deleted the message. No panic, just purpose. Because Jasmine Crockett now knew exactly what she was fighting. This time, the world was watching with her,